Okay, our retro review is now This Side of Paradise. Hello out there, I'm the Oldest Nerd. This Side of Paradise is very much a Spock story. The Enterprise is off to check on 150 colonists who could not have possibly survived on this planet. Scientific discoveries that the Bertholdt rays that are common on this planet are deadly and irreversible to humans. So they really didn't expect this 3-year-old expedition to still be there. They beamed down to find empty buildings and things such as that, and lament how bad it is that that was such a waste. And yet the colonists are there. And we know now that it's because of these plants that blow spores on them that protect them from the Bertholdt rays and also give them such a sense of contentment that they're essentially cattle. They don't really want to advance. They don't want to better themselves, to do anything that is in the ethos of the Federation, in which you not only live in kind of a paradise on Earth, but you also do things to improve yourself, to better yourself, to advance yourself. And there was none of that going on here. This is one of a number of episodes in which there are civilizations. We've already seen the one with Landru, where society was orderly but just wasn't advancing. And so this goes along with that kind of thing. It's not the last one we'll see like that. We have, once again, another femme fatale in soft focus. This one happens to be, her name is Layla, and she once had some kind of relationship with Spock. Apparently, they were both scientists and worked together on Earth. She had a thing for him, and of course, he was not able to reciprocate, or perhaps unwilling. Once affected by the spores, of course, that changed, and so we have the first real romance for Spock, which was well played by Leonard Nimoy here, who was able to show a certain amount of restraint, still very much in accordance with his character, even though he's kind of released to have emotions. There were no red shirts that beamed down on the original landing party, and in fact, this entire episode, nobody dies. That's not unusual in the later Trek episodes, but in the original series, it seemed like somebody had to die at least once every episode. If it wasn't one of the crew, it was somebody on the planet, and none of this happened here. So we came out with no deaths. The head of the colony is named Elias Sandoval, played well. We have a few good lines for some of the... We see a lot of the occasional characters like Leslie and Dusal and others that are mentioned and in the landing party. Now, there's an interesting line by Sulu. When it comes to farms, I wouldn't know if something were wrong if it were 2 feet away. And of course, they cleverly put one of the spore plants about 2 feet away from him as he's saying that. They don't reveal that until later in the episode, but it's a little clever Easter egg that they put in for the later part of the story. Something that bothered me a little bit is not long after Spock was affected by the spores, in the very next scene, they don't appear to have moved far from where he was infected, but he's already changed clothes into the jumpsuits that the rest of the colonists are wearing. Interestingly, nobody else on the crew did. Everybody else stayed in Starfleet uniforms throughout the episode. McCoy shows much more pronounced Georgia accent. It's always kind of hinted at in the various shows, and occasionally when he's more folksy, he will go into more of a slight Southern accent. This one is much more pronounced, a little more foghorn leghorn than we hear him in any other episode. Also, we find that in Kirk being alone on the bridge, they show a lot of detail of the bridge. They pan the camera around the Spock station and the communication station especially. And if somebody were wanting to make a reproduction of the bridge, that would be a good place to start, because they show everything in detail. It's a tribute to how well that bridge was designed, in that if you showed it up close, it still looked real. Whereas a lot of sci-fi that used a lot of found stuff to throw in, if you took too close a look at it, you'd find out that it was a video game console or a typewriter or who knows what. Although it didn't look like there was an ashtray underneath the communication station, which was sitting there. Painted a different color and obviously cleaned out, but an ashtray nonetheless. Also, we know as Kirk is affected by the spores and is about to leave the ship, he packs his stuff in a Samsonite suitcase. It's nice to know that Samsonite has made it all the way to the 23rd century. Also, my favorite line in it, of course, is very revealing about Spock, where in his last scene with Layla, she asks, "I never asked if you had another name, Mr. Spock." And he says, "You could not pronounce it." That's the first time that they pointed out that Spock did have another name, and they play with it a little bit later in Journey to Babel, for instance, where they ask Spock's mother if she's able to pronounce it. And she doesn't really say that she can. More on that as we get to it, but we hope that you enjoyed this episode, this side of Paradise and Omicron SETI 3. The redo of the special effects on it are very effective, with mostly just of the Enterprise being in orbit, but it gives a more realistic feel of the ship, of the planet, and the view screen points of view and things such as this. So I kind of like this episode. It's not absolutely the best of the series, but it's a nice representation of what it's about, and they're able to do it without firing a phaser or having any death threats against anything. It was just a matter of people changing their minds and getting them changed back. So please subscribe to this channel. Let us know what you think about this episode and other things in the original series. We are continuing the first season. There are 30 episodes in the first season, so we have a few more to go. We, of course, have Picard coming up next week. We have The Mandalorian is going to be starting on March 1st, and much new material is going to be coming our way, and we'll try and keep up with all of it. So so if you haven't subscribed, please do so and ring the bell so you know when the next video is coming your way. We have a lot of content coming for you. So until next time, don't go far.